Welcome to another episode of the Potential Success Show. My name is Fong, and today we have another amazing guest. This individual I met at a live conference a few months ago, and when we chatted, I went, "Wow, this person has great energy, has great passion, is excited about what she does." I'm like, "Wow, this person's pretty amazing." And then later on, I saw her on stage, and sure enough, great energy, great passion, and really good at what she does. And she has one of those stories about real estate that you will always, always remember. And once I heard that story, I'm like, oh, she's the person. She's the one with that story. So I can't wait to have her here. Like I said, she has great passion for what she does, especially in the rural areas, the families and the communities in those areas. And she is a residential and also a commercial real estate investor. So please welcome Christy Castellano.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm
All
very
right.
excited to see you.
Yeah, it's always a joy seeing you and also chatting with you. And also, I can't wait to hear the full-blown version of that story that we kind of mentioned there. Uh,
Okay,
but
now I have a ton of stories because when you work in rural areas, there's never a shortage of stories. And so I'm curious, are you talking about me buying a gentleman's front yard? Are
that would
you
be the one.
talking about the house that I have had to go through three different probate processes for? Are you talking about the bologna sandwich payment?
Ooh.
Are you talking about how I bought 40 acres but didn't get a mule? Which one would you like to hear about?
Well, in that case, I think we need to get highlights of all four of those because those all sound amazing. I thought you only had one amazing story. You got four, and I'm sure you got a lot more too. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
well, first
Well,
of all, not everybody jumps out to become real estate investors. And you're somebody who decided to get into real estate, residential and commercial. What was the reason or what was the path for you to pick this is what I want to do and this is what I want to focus on?
well, I grew up in a small town, rural Texas. I was the peanut festival queen. We had farmers all around. My grandfather was a farmer. My other grandfather fixed tractors for a living. And I always wanted to and strove to help my community and the people around me. That's how I was raised. That's how we grew up. It was very modest, it was very poor, but it was always a caring, loving, and enjoyable environment. And I wanted to help those type of people. And so I've always looked towards the rural part of the real estate market. Well, fast forward about 20 years, and my part of South Texas that I grew up in had a huge economic boom in what was known as the Eagleford Shale boom. It's a oil region in South Texas that made these penniless farmers millionaires overnight. And it was the first big oil boom in Texas in years. And it happened in South Central Texas, a little south of San Antonio. A lot of people have heard of San Antonio. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I have mineral rights. I've I know a little bit about this. Why am I not getting a piece of this pie? Why isn't my family getting this a piece of this pie? And it turns out they actually were. My grandparents had like 600 acres in mineral rights and I didn't even know it. And it turns out I actually owned mineral rights, didn't even know them because I inherited them from like 10 generations ago. Was I making a ton of money? No, I get my two-penny check every 4 years, and I frame them and I make them, actually give me the check because it costs them more money to send me a check than it does to give me two pennies.
No
But
spite there.
no spite there, no pettiness. But I've always loved staying involved in the family farm. Well, fast forward many, many years, and about a year and a half ago, my husband was like, I hate my job. And I was like, okay, but how are we going to make money? And he's like, I don't know. What are we going to do? But I can't do this forever. It's killing me. And I was like, well, let's look at some things. And right about then, my family started to come to the conclusion that they had to sell my grandparents' farm. And so I started doing some research, reaching out. I joined a couple of programs like everybody does. I joined coaching programs. I was like, I can do this. I can be a residential real estate investor. They make it sound so easy. You just go out there, you find an auction, you buy a property, and then you're set. And well, I did that. And that's how I got into my very first story. My very first property I purchased was about a year and a half ago, plus or minus, a couple of weeks. And it was a tax lien auction. Went in, paid about $500 for what I thought was 2 vacant city lots. I was like, yes, I struck it big here. And then I did exactly what you're not supposed to do. And then I researched them. And I was like, hey, I bought a guy's front yard. The guy could not even step out of his front door without trespassing on my property. And so I was like, well, what do I do now? I own a guy's front yard. And I mean, the guy was totally landlocked in his house. And I'm like, how do I, fix this problem? And so I did a little bit more research, talked to my coaches, got some advice, found out that the local school district was willing to buy the land from me at current market price, which was actually about $6,000.
Oh,
And I was like, I could have had, 11 times my initial investment, but I chose the right thing to do. I talked to
hold
the
on.
guy.
What did the school want with it?
The land was right next to their bus barn, which gave them the opportunity to buy out the gentleman for cheap
Ah, okay.
and kind of force his hand. But the guy had been living there for 15 years. He thought he owned his front yard. I mean, I kind of thought I owned my front yard. And I recently bought a house, and when I asked the title company, so this is the exact lines, and they were like, yeah, so I own my front yard, right? And they're like, yeah, why wouldn't you? I was like, well, I've got a story. So what I end up doing is I actually sold the guy his front yard back.
Mm.
And I got 4 times my initial investment. I sold it to him for about $2,000, and he covered all of the closing costs, which was probably about another $150. And I was the good guy, and I saved him from the mean, evil school district that was going to turn his front yard into a parking lot.
Well,
And I have a great story of what not to do as a first-time investor.
it never occurred to you that, wait a minute, for $500, 2 plots of land, something doesn't add up.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together.
Well,
I mean, because when you're doing these initial programs, you're given like 500 hours of teaching strategies and how to do a wrap and what a state mortgage is versus what probate is. How do you handle an affidavit of heirship? What if you can take it subject to? You don't think about you got to do a title search, you got to do a little bit of research, you got to find out what is actually on this property before you buy something like and I've had one property that I actually had to do some in-depth research because it turned out the lot was so awkward that had the city decided to change the easements or the electric company decided to move a pole, I could have prevented any building on the entire lot.
Wow.
And so you have to, that's one thing they don't tell new investors. Do your research, then pay $500 for 2 city lots.
Well, in retrospect, if you didn't do that and you did do your research, you would have never done that deal. You would never be able to say that you've made 4 times your investment and have this amazing story that people would relate you to. Would you still have wanted to do it then? Let's say if you get to go back, knowing what you know now, would you have gone through
Okay, knowing what I know now, this is how I would have handled it a little differently. I would have seen, hey, this is some guy's front yard. I would have called up that guy and said, hey, would you like to go to the auction with me and buy your front yard? Or I can buy your front yard for you and then you can pay me for it. And because I think I would have felt better giving him the option to do that. Of course, it was so funny because here I didn't do my research and I bought a guy's front yard. The guy, he goes, hey, this is a really strange scenario. Do you mind if I do some research and check it out?
it?
So he did exactly what I should have done.
Uh,
And so I think that's what I would have done differently. I would have at least given him the chance to buy it first. Now, if he didn't, I would have picked it up still for $500 and sold it back to him.
awesome. So, okay, you had this story under your belt. What was the next approach that you did? Like the next deal that you did because now you learned your lesson. You're gonna go and do more research before you take action on it. But it sounds like whichever lesson you've learned, the world gives you something else to play with.
Uh, I I am never afraid to take on a property or take on a scenario, no matter how awkward it can be or difficult. In residential, you run especially in rural areas, you run across a lot of weird scenarios. I've been paid. So I went out and helped a guy do an appraisal on his property, and I was paid in duck eggs. I received 2,000 or what he equated to $2,000 worth of duck eggs. It was about 2 dozen. I have a picture of them sitting in my purse because he didn't have containers for them. So I have them sitting in my purse, and I have a picture of it when you get paid in duck eggs. And that one was an interesting property because I had to tell the gentleman, no, your property isn't worth near as much as you think it is.
Mm.
Mainly because you have a butchering shed right in the middle of a city block, and people are kind of scared of chains hanging from the ceiling in plain view. And but that's the fun of working in rural environments.
Mm.
Like I said, I got another one, and I think this is my biggest disappointment as an investor because I actually didn't get to help the gentleman as much as I wanted to. He still thanked me in the end, and I still put up a really good fight. In fact, it finally ended. My fight was finalized about a month and a half ago. So I put in almost a year on this property. And what happened is the gentleman fell off a ladder at work. He was a private contractor, so he didn't have insurance and couldn't make his mortgage payment once that happened. The bank stepped in like right away and proceeded to foreclose on his property. And we were going to buy the property from the bank, take over the note, take over the reinstatement fee, and basically seller finance it back to him. What you are missing in this story is the guy had already paid 29 years and 7 months on his property. He owed less than $7,000 on his entire home. A little bitty 3-bedroom, 1-bath house on 2 acres of land in the middle of a town that most people have never heard of. We got to the day of closing and found out that 5 years ago, he had unintentionally signed an agreement with a realtor because he was looking at possibly renting it out and moving in with his mom.
Okay.
And to take care of her. Well, that didn't pan out, so he didn't, rent it out. The realtor came after us saying it was breach contract, that we now had to go through her for the sale and everything like that. And I was like, that's fine. We'll pay you your 2% of $7,000.
But this was also what, 5 months ago?
5 years.
5 years ago.
Yeah,
so
5
whatever
years
he
prior.
signed 5 years ago would have been already.
Oh no. This was in this contract, it was like until he said stop.
Really? Wow.
And he never thought to just say stop. So we had to go through her. And luckily, I had a realtor in my pocket already. She's a really good friend of mine. We met through kids. And we fought everything. And she kept telling him, well, I'll just buy the property from you for 20 grand. In the meantime, the bank is not giving us, they're not talking to us anymore. They're not giving us reinstatement amounts. I got 3 different reinstatement amounts dated 3 different days. And the highest one wasn't even the most recent one. The last reinstatement offer that we received from them was past due by like 2 weeks. And this other realtor was trying to tell me, just sign the papers. And I was like, I'm not going to sign papers on how much I don't know or an infinite amount.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, the bank sent it to auction. It didn't sell at auction because the bank all of a sudden wanted 50 grand for this little house that's not even worth 12. And so now it's sitting on the market. Well, we filed a TREC complaint against the realtor. We filed a complaint against the bank. We filed a claim against the attorney's office that was handling the reinstatement. The courts threw out everything except for the TREC complaint against the realtor. And she was fined like $200. Wasn't, and she's got a little tick mark now on her permanent record.
Yep.
And so I really felt like I didn't do my job. Like I didn't work hard enough, or I should have been able to do something else. And it really wasn't my fault. But when you invest yourself in helping people, you always take that to heart. And the last day I got to talk to Jimmy was the homeowner. He was like, you did your best. You tried really, really hard. And he bought me lunch. And it was a bologna sandwich and a bottle of Coke. And it was the best bologna sandwich I have ever had.
Wow.
And I take pride that I got paid with a bologna sandwich for a hard job. But it still breaks my heart. And I still look at because Jimmy's house is still sitting on the market. It is way overpriced right now, but I have a friend who's going through another name because the bank already knows my name. And so they're not willing to work with me. But I have another friend who's from a different part of the state, and they're putting in an offer um, in a couple of weeks. They're going to put in an offer because it'll have officially been on the market for 1 year in a couple of weeks. I believe March 2nd, it'll have been on the market for a year. They're going to put in an offer for 15, and we're going to see if we can buy Jimmy his house.
Wow. And is he still there?
He still resides in the little town of Sinton. And so I'm hoping we can buy Jimmy his house and he can have his house back.
That is awesome. Now, like all these stories you're sharing happened within the last year and a half, 2 years. So how fast did you go and get that first property, like that first one,
It
from
was
you
3
said
weeks.
3 weeks from you researching and going, hey, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah. 3 week 3 weeks from a 3-day weekend seminar.
Wow, that is speed of implementation right there. And so share with us, what is that trait that you have that that makes you so willing to jump out there and do things that A, you may or may not be 100% prepared for, and two, having that sense of no fear.
I guess, it kind of relates to my upbringing. When when you're a poor kid, you learn, okay, if I don't do this and I don't do it quickly, it's not going to happen. I'm going to miss out. And so there's always that fear in the back of my head of missing out. Right now, I'm working on my first purchase of a package of houses. It's actually 7 rental properties, and I am not even gonna lie, I am scared beyond reason because I'm like, what if I buy in the wrong, neighborhood? This is a whole new state for me. This is a whole new real estate market, and I have one rental house and it's managed by somebody. How am I going to manage 7 properties in a new state in a new market? Am I getting a good deal? And so I'm like, well, if I don't get over this fear, I'll never find out. And so you've got to rely on the people who know more than you. And there are tons of people out there. I mean, I'm sure you know a lot more about your market than I do. You know a lot more, obviously, about interviews than I do.
I tell you what, if I ever go into the rural area to do a deal, I'm gonna call you first.
Sounds good.
I need
I
to
will
know
be your
how much.
girl.
I need to know the equivalent of $5,000 and duckings. What's the going price for that? So
I don't know. Have you seen the current market for chicken
I
eggs?
know it's not that much. Not
Our
not a lot of
HOA
eggs.
is like, you can have 5 chickens now. I
Wow.
know we said no chickens, but you can have chickens now. We've seen the price of eggs.
That's
$8 a carton?
very, very true. Now, now something you mentioned at the very beginning during that first story was that you talked to your coaches. And
Yes.
that's not something that most people would do. They'll go, hey, I'm gonna go and start real estate. I'm gonna do everything myself and learn from that. But you found a coach right away before your first property or first deal. Why was that? Why did you jump that ship first before you jumped onto your own ship?
Before, okay. So my first job was a milkmaid for a dairy. I gave tours. And one of the things I learned way back then is there's somebody who always knows more than you do. And I was stubborn and I thought I knew it all because I was a teenager. And that's fine and dandy until you get kicked by a cow. And then you learn to ask, how do you not get kicked again?
Mhm.
And I always took that to heart. And then I became a teacher. And I had students all the time who were like, oh, miss, you don't know what the real world's like. I was like, yeah, I've never lived in the real world, where you're eating cheese sandwiches because you can't afford ramen because it's too expensive. And you learn there's somebody who always knows more than you do. So if you want to get good at something and you don't want to make mistakes, you find a coach. You find that person who knows more than you and you ask them. Because I can guarantee it doesn't matter if you are the richest person on the earth, the wisest person on the earth, they want to share that information. Because the true wealth that an individual owns is what they can share. And sometimes it may not be money, it may not be eggs, it may be their knowledge. And if they aren't willing to share their knowledge, then you don't need their knowledge anyway.
Very, very well said. I think one of my other coaches said something like, if you have knowledge, always share it. Because it's one thing to keep it to yourself, but it's another thing where if you keep on sharing it, you can spread that information, help other people achieve certain successes and certain goals too. And if you're just keeping it to yourself, you're just selfish.
I read a quote a couple of days ago by Gandhi, and I believe it was Gandhi, and it was the sign of a true leader is that leaders build leaders. And I completely messed that up. But the gist of it is if you really want to be a leader, you're going to create more leaders. You're going to find a way to spread the knowledge that you have and build yourself up by building others up.
Very, very true. Now, based on this conversation and previous conversations I have had with you, it seems pretty safe to say that when you see adversity, challenges, you find the humor in it. You find the positives in it because of the
Oh,
way
yeah.
you speak and all that kind of stuff. So how do you tell other people or recommend people to kind of create that sense of mindset? To look at things from that point of view so that it's more fun and it's easier to become more successful because you're willing to try different things. You're willing to face that adversity and see failure and learn from it. Because without that mindset, it's not possible.
Somebody wise out there once said, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at? And if you are always looking at the bad things in life, if you're looking at a deal and you're only seeing the problems, if you're looking at a property and you're only seeing the fact that the roof's caving in and there's a water leak and there's a skunk sitting in the middle of the living room, you're going to be miserable. You're never going to find a good deal. You're only seeing the bad in life. If if you take that house, that one with the roof leak, the one with the water issues, the skunk that somehow got in that house, probably through the roof, um, and you think, if I add a pretty scented candle, fix the plumbing, and fix the roof, I can flip this house for 100 grand. And I've just made some money off of something that everybody else was willing to throw away. The worst things in life only make you stronger. And you've got to see the humor in life. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable.
Very, very true. It's one of those things that lots of people don't realize is how important that positive mindset or positive view on things affects all the actions, all the thinking that they do throughout the day. And something as simple as just waking up and feeling feeling happy. Waking up and listening to that favorite song of yours just to put yourself in that good mood sets the tone for the rest of the day, and most people don't understand that. Now, what's your routine? How do you stay happy? How do you stay positive? How do you avoid all the crap that goes around you that is almost impossible to avoid?
Oh, okay. So unlike most individuals, I have a really, really hard time sticking to a routine. What keeps me in my routine is my children. My children have to be at school by a certain time. They have to be woken up by a certain time. My dog needs to be taken out by a certain time. Because I love them and I don't want to let them down, I force myself into a routine. I also have to write everything down. My husband is like, "Did you remember this?" I was like, "No, because I was hyper focused on this." And he was like, "But you're going to run out of that tomorrow." And I'm like, "Let me write it down." And if I showed you my phone, it would be hilarious to see all the little notes. One of my coaches at one time said, each day write down 5 things on one side of a sheet of paper that are the top 5 things you need to do.
Yeah.
And on the other side, list everything else that you need to do. I've been doing that for about a year now. And when I started, I had my 5 things on one side. On the other side was about 5 pages worth of other things I needed to do. And so if I would get through a page, I was really happy with myself and felt like I accomplished all this. And you just have to build a routine that fits you. I am a late night person. I hear about these people. Yeah, I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I do this and I don't drink coffee. And I'm like, how do you survive? Me, I'll stay up until 2 in the morning, get all of my stuff when everybody else is asleep, gives me time to focus on what I need to focus, have my quiet time, and then I go to bed. And if I can sleep until 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm a happy camper.
6, 7 o'clock in the morning. People are still sleeping.
I know. Well, like I said, my kids have to be at school by 8,
That's true.
and
I
we're
was
15 minutes away.
I was gonna say as you were sharing the strategy of putting the list together. So at the beginning of the day, you're writing your 5 things, and you jump on the other side, start writing
Oh,
all
I
these
do
new
that
stuff.
the night before. If I don't do it the night before, I forget to do it for the next day.
But as you were saying that, I was thinking of having if you were to do it at the morning, then by like 5 o'clock at night, you're still on that list.
Yep,
Now, you,
I'm
you
still
mentioned
on the list.
you mentioned a little earlier ago that you go through the courses, you go through the seminars, and you said that they make it sound so easy. Okay, and there's a lot of people out there who feels the same way, right? They hear these interviews and go, "Wow, you jumped and got your first deal in 3 weeks. That sounds so easy." So what are those things that between the seminar and that first deal of 3 weeks, which is actually very short, what was those things that they didn't tell you that is not the easy part that you had to go through in record timing?
The Okay, so one thing they don't tell you is it's not as easy as they make it out to be. They make it out to be like it is going to be Bentleys and Prada bags and whatnot within a month. So I have talked to a lot of people who they didn't get their first deal until 8 months down the road, a year down the road. And the important thing is persistence. You just have to keep doing it. You have to work at it like, where is my next sandwich coming from? And if you don't do that, if you give up, you're not going to make it. It's not easy. It's hard. And it takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of time. And you gotta figure out your niche too. I've heard a lot about door knocking. Well, in the beginning, we were told go knock on a bunch of doors, go cold call a ton of people, go write letters and hang things on people's doors if you think their house looks cruddy. Um, and you can't do that in every neighborhood.
Mhm.
I mean, if I walked up to some stranger's yard in the middle of rural Texas with no business of being there, I'm likely to get shot.
That's another story, you know.
That was back to my teaching days. I haven't been shot as an investor.
Yeah. So many questions about that, but anyway.
You can't have fear either.
Mm.
I One of the things they don't tell you is, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, they don't tell you that you don't have to be good at everything. They expect you to just right off the bat be good at cold calling, door knocking, all of this stuff. That's not my strong suit.
Mm.
My strong suit is writing a nice, honest letter and talking to people and trying to research my way out of problems. Um, when I work with commercial properties, they call me the poor man's researcher because I'll just call up we've been focusing with a group of mine, we've been focusing on purchasing storage units or storage properties. And the group that I work with has already purchased one. It's already almost profitable, and we built it up from nothing.
Oh.
What I'm really good at is calling these places, calling the storage companies and saying, "Hey, I'm moving to your area. What kind of property do you have? Do you have a storage unit that would hold this much?" And you would be amazed how much people are willing to open up to you if you're willing to talk to them and hear their story.
That's true.
Like, how many times do you get asked, "What's your story? What makes you successful?"
Hmm.
No, really. What makes you successful?
Hmm. For like right now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I thought we were doing rhetorical, but anyway, yeah. Uh,
No. No
it's
rhetorical question.
that it's that persistency that you talked about. It's making that decision, committing to that decision, and keep on doing it. Like for instance, when I was challenged to do the podcasting thing, I made a promise that regardless of what happens, I'm gonna have one a week, and that's been 4 years. When I've been
Oh,
challenged
wow.
to, yeah, when I've been challenged to start doing videos online and all that kind of stuff, it's one of the toughest things I've ever had to do. But when it was tough, you just make sure you do a shorter video or something, or have some banked up. So you're always going to have some going out every week or every 2, 3 days. And it's one of those things. Persistency is the biggest thing, and being consistent.
I've I've dabbled in podcasting,
Mhm.
and so far I like to talk so much that I haven't figured out what my podcasting is going to be about. I had a wonderful interview with Katina Mobley, and we spent a whole 15 minutes talking nothing about our kids. Which he's got wonderful kids, by the way. He's got 3 wonderful kids and just an absolutely marvelous guy.
Hey, sometimes the conversations that verge off on something that you did not expect to talk about are one of the best ones and most listened to or most entertaining, most memorable ones. So it's one of those things, and you have that knack. Like you have the knack to get people to talk. You have that knack of sharing good stories. So it's one of those things that just go out and do it, right? Like just go out and buy that person's front lawn.
Why not?
Exactly.
Everybody's got $500 to spend.
So when things are tough, what do you do?
Okay. My husband says I have an uncanny knack of finding a way, and I think I get that from my parents. Growing up, there were a lot of times that we we didn't have, two pennies to scrape together. I remember I worked an entire summer picking rocks out of a field to earn a Barbie doll that I really wanted.
Oh,
And it was a $10 Barbie doll. And I probably spent 250 hours doing manual labor in hot Texas heat for this doll. I was a kid. It was the greatest thing I ever earned. And when you don't have everything, you find a way to get what you need and to survive. When I knew early on that I didn't want student loans, but I wanted to go to college because I didn't want to be poor. I didn't want to have to live paycheck to paycheck. I wanted to be a governmental speechwriter and study history, but I was like, there's no money in that. So I was like, what do? I became a mathematician. I taught mathematics, upper level mathematics. I love statistics to this day. And even then, I felt like I'm still living paycheck to paychecks because we all know teachers don't get paid squat.
right.
But given the chance, I found a way to invest little things. And then we found real estate. And fast forward a year and a half, and I'm not a huge real estate mogul, but I have investment properties and mineral rights and a rental property that is now rented out. And so I'm finally profitable. A lot of people tend to give up anytime it gets hard. And I've seen it especially with like my kids. It starts to get hard and they want to give up and I'm like, "No, you're not giving up. If I'm going to teach you anything in life, it's don't give up. It may be hard, but this too will end. It'll get easier. I promise. It just takes time." And so if I could impart any wisdom to anybody, it'd be have some persistence and just don't give up. There's a sunny day coming. We're all going to be on the beach in a couple of months and the cold snap will be over and it's going to be a scary sight because we will have been covered for a while and, we'll all need a tan, but it's happier days are coming.
Awesome stuff. That is a good way to end the formal portion. I just wanted to add when you're talking to your kids about, yeah, it's gonna get easier. Don't give up. I'm in the phase right now where my daughter gets frustrated just because she can't get her other arm in her jacket. I'm like, geez, stop complaining about it. Figure it out. It's like, no, I can't do
We need to film that.
it.
We have a video of my daughter, my youngest, when she was trying to put on her seatbelt for her first time. And it is hilarious because she is like, no, I've got this. Mom said I can do it. And now we play it to her and she's like, I can't believe y'all recorded that. Mind you, so my kids, this is how hard I am on my kids. When I tell them never give up, my oldest lives on her own. And we asked her if she wanted help when we moved away because she was used to having mom and dad, a couple of miles away at the most. And she was like, no, I got this. And so she's 19 years old. She's doing very well as an insurance sales associate. And she is successfully living on her own in a very nice apartment with her cat. And she's happy. My son, he kind of started his own makeshift business at 12. He got his first 3D printer and fixed it and then sold enough 3D prints to buy another broken 3D printer, fixed that one, and he's just upgraded to a really nice 3D printer and he's continuing to do that.
Oh,
My daughter, My youngest, she's something to fear. She's an avid hunter. She is the world's youngest master scuba diver.
Wow.
And yeah, she scares me on a daily basis. But I do know that I've tried my best and they will be successful in life.
Mm, that is awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all that. But before I let you go, got five quick questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. All right. You're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life, no consequence. You'll still be fit, you'll still be healthy. What would it be?
Not bananas.
Not bananas, anything else.
Anything else. If it doesn't eat me, I'll eat it. Just
I,
not
I,
bananas.
I'm gonna stick with you on that. I hate bananas so much.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
not
they're
it's not a
disgusting.
fruit. It's not refreshing. It's not crunchy. I
No,
don't get it.
no, they're gross.
Hollywood calls and goes, "We love your story. You got great motivational stories throughout your career as an investor. We would love to do a biopic of you. Who would you cast to play you?"
Oh wow. Can can it be somebody like I'd want Sean Connery.
The male version of you.
Yeah. Or Morgan Freeman. Morgan
Ah,
Freeman would be awesome.
nicely
That
picked.
voice.
So Morgan Freeman shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got cast to play you. Let's hang out. Let's have some fun." What does a night out with Morgan Freeman look like?
Oh, that's gonna be fun. We're gonna eat some crawfish and we're gonna have some juice. And because okay, so sometimes I drink, sometimes I don't, but for the most part, I prefer juice or Canadian dry, ginger ale. And we're going to talk and we're going to talk about his movies and then we're going to talk about my life and we're just going to sit on the back porch and have fun.
Sounds good. And I said five, right? The fourth question is you're on a road trip, hours on end, one song that you don't mind listening to on repeat.
Sweet Caroline.
Nicely done.
That, that's my okay. Anytime I am going through something really, really tough or scary, it's my mantra song.
Ah,
And so my whole family are scuba divers. And 4 years ago, I was terrified of water, but I overcame the fear of water because I didn't want to miss out on what my family was doing. And so now I actually have pictures of me diving with sharks and things like that. But anytime I'm scared underwater, I'll start humming and singing Sweet Caroline, and I wear a full face mask so people can actually hear me singing Sweet Caroline underwater. And it's hilarious because if you've dove with me for a while, you've come to expect it. And so you'll hear like people go bump bump bum underwater. So yes, Sweet Caroline over and over and over again, or Bohemian Rhapsody. Who doesn't love Queen?
it sounds like you already have it in your car on repeat
Yes,
all the time.
I
So,
do.
all right. Last question before I get there. Give me a number from one to four.
Two.
One, two. So, word is unicycle. So,
Unicycle.
utilizing unicycle as a metaphor for success. How is success like a unicycle?
Success is like a unicycle because it takes persistence. We have a librarian down in South Texas. He travels from all the little local libraries. His name is Mr. Kippy, and guess what? He rides a unicycle. And this gentleman, he is the ideal person that you want to put your students around, put your children around, because he's encouraging, he's persistent, he's loving, and he loves a good book, and he's willing to share that with kids. He's what a good leader should be. And it all started with his love of a unicycle. And I
Nice.
swear, look up Mr. Kippy.
So that's how success is like a unicycle. It's almost as if that was perfect for you. You just you had a reference, you had a person. Nicely done.
You gotta be quick on your feet.
Well, thank you very much for your time, your stories. It's been very, very enjoyable. This time has gone by very fast. Any final words from you? And also, what are you looking for? How do people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me by, well, actually, okay, this is probably going out to a billion people. And here is my email address. It is CACASTEL77 at gmail.com. I don't have a business email address, and here's the reason why. People look at a business email address in a rural area and they think, oh, this is just another swindler. This is just another charlatan who wants to, you know, rob my farm. And so I stick to my old personal Gmail address because people know I'm human. What I look for is to help people in rural environments. I'm always looking for a good deal. And if the deal is not right for me, I have probably met a friend who the deal is right for. So I look for everything. I especially love mineral rights. I'm starting to get into timber rights. Like I said, recently looking at buying 40 acres of the land in the middle of nowhere that has a lot of logs on it. And so I'm open to anything.
Cool.
Life's an adventure.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a way to live happily and adventurous and successfully. So thank you very much for that. Any final words?
Uh, no,
No?
I think I said enough.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. For everybody out there, make sure you connect with Christy. If you have any questions with regards to real estate and investing, rural investing, it sounds like Christy is the person to go to because of all the experience she's had. So thank you very much again. She's Christy.
And I
I'm
love
Paul.
to help people.
Exactly. And yeah, she's out there to help as many people as she can. So again, Christy, Fong, until next time, today is the day to talk to people potential. We'll see you later.